Hey there, sleepy listeners. Tonight, we're settling into something soft and warm, a story that wraps around you like your favorite blanket on the coldest night of winter. This isn't just any bedtime tale. This is the kind of story that reminds you why love matters, why partnership works, and why some heroes don't need capes to save the day. They just need each other. Before you get too comfortable, take a moment to let your shoulders drop, let your breathing slow, and let me know in the comments where you're listening from tonight and what time it is in your corner of the world. There's something magical about knowing we're all drifting off together, scattered across time zones, but connected by the same gentle story. Tonight, we're visiting Bob and Helen Parr, though you might know them better by other names. But forget the costumes, forget the chaos, forget the world saving for just a little while. Tonight, they're simply a husband and wife who've learned that the greatest superpower isn't strength or elasticity. It's choosing to love someone every single day, especially when that choice feels ordinary, quiet, and beautifully human. This story takes place on one of those perfectly unremarkable Tuesday evenings when nothing extraordinary happens, and somehow everything feels exactly right. The kind of evening where heroics mean helping with homework, where saving the day looks like remembering to pick up milk on the way home, and where the most important mission is simply being present for each other. So settle in, close your eyes, and let yourself drift into a world where love doesn't need to be dramatic to be powerful, where the strongest force in the universe might just be the way someone remembers how you like your coffee, or the sound of familiar footsteps coming up the front walk at the end of a long day. Our story begins on Autumn Street, where the maple trees have started their slow dance toward winter. The leaves are that perfect shade of amber that makes everything look like it's been dipped in honey and sunlight. The air carries that crisp promise of change, the kind that makes you want to wrap your hands around a warm mug and watch the world turn golden outside your kitchen window. Bob Parr is walking up the front steps of his house, briefcase in one hand, a small paper bag in the other. His tie is slightly crooked, his hair a little mussed from a day that felt longer than most. But there's something in his step that wasn't there this morning, something lighter, because he knows that in about 30 seconds, he's going to open that front door and step into the part of his life that makes everything else worthwhile. Inside, Helen is standing at the kitchen counter, reading glasses perched on her nose as she reviews Dash's math homework for the third time. Her hair is pulled back in a practical ponytail, and she's wearing that blue cardigan that Bob loves because it brings out her eyes. She's not thinking about elasticity or superhuman abilities. She's thinking about whether their 10-year-old son actually understands long division, or if he's just guessing his way through the problems. The house smells like the pot roast she's been slow cooking all day, mixed with the vanilla candle Violet lit in her room while studying for her history test. It's the smell of home in its truest form. Not perfect, not magazine-worthy, but real and lived in and full of the small moments that build a life together. When Bob's key turns in the lock, Helen looks up and smiles. Not the brilliant movie star smile she might flash at a photographer or during a television interview. This is quieter, warmer, the smile reserved for the person who's seen her at her worst and somehow decided to stay anyway. The smile that says, "Welcome home," without needing any words at all. "How was your day?" she asks. The same question she's asked 1,000 times before, but the way she asks it tonight, with genuine curiosity and attention, makes it feel fresh. makes it matter. Bob sets down his briefcase and holds up the paper bag with a slightly sheepish grin. I may have made a small detour on the way home. Helen raises an eyebrow, amused. Oh, really? What kind of detour? The kind that involves that little bakery on 5th Street and a certain someone's weakness for chocolate croissants. Her face lights up, and for a moment, she looks exactly like the woman he fell in love with all those years ago, before the responsibilities and the routines, and the beautiful, complicated reality of building a life together. Bob Parr, you are terrible for my willpower. I prefer to think of myself as an enabler of happiness. She laughs, and the sound fills the kitchen like music, not because it's extraordinary, but because it's hers. Because after all these years, he can still make her laugh on a Tuesday evening when nothing particularly funny has happened. Jack toddles into the kitchen then, having escaped from his playpen in the living room, with the kind of determination that suggests he might have inherited more than just his parents' good looks. He's wearing his favorite dinosaur pajamas and clutching a stuffed elephant that's seen better days, but remains his most trusted companion. Da, he squeals, reaching his chubby arms toward Bob with the pure, uncomplicated joy that only toddlers seem capable of expressing. Bob scoops him up, spinning him gently in a circle that makes Jack giggle with delight. Helen watches them, her heart doing that thing it always does when she sees Bob with their children. That swelling feeling of rightness, of gratitude for the man who can shift seamlessly from whatever challenges his day held to this moment of pure, playful love. Where are Dash and Violet? Bob asks, settling Jack on his hip. Dash is in his room, supposedly doing homework, but more likely building something elaborate out of Legos. Violet is actually studying, believe it or not. She has a big history test tomorrow on the Civil War. And you've been holding down the fort all day. Helen shrugs, but Bob catches that slight tightness around her eyes. That means her day was harder than she's letting on. Maybe Jack was extra fussy during his nap. Maybe the grocery store was crowded and chaotic. Maybe she just felt the weight of managing a million small details while juggling her own work and everyone else's needs. Hey, he says softly, reaching out to touch her arm. Really, how was your day? And that's when she tells him about Jack refusing to eat anything except goldfish crackers until noon, about the call from Dash's teacher regarding a classroom incident involving a paper airplane and questionable aim, about the deadline she's trying to meet for work while fielding 17 different questions about everything from snack preferences to whether elephants can swim. Bob listens, really listens, in the way that makes Helen remember why she married him. Not just because he's strong or brave or capable of incredible things, but because he pays attention, because he cares about the details of her day, even when those details seem small and ordinary. You know what? He says when she finishes. Tonight, I'm handling dinner cleanup. You're going to take that chocolate croissant, make yourself a cup of that fancy tea you like, and do absolutely nothing productive for at least an hour. Bob, you don't have to. I want to. Besides, I happen to know that Jack and I make an excellent dishwashing team. Don't we, buddy? Jack claps his hands enthusiastically, as if he understands exactly what his father is proposing and fully approves. Helen feels that familiar warmth spreading through her chest. The feeling of being seen, being cared for, being part of something bigger than herself. It's not the dramatic, sweeping romance of movies or novels. It's better than that. It's real. It's chosen. It's built from 1,000 small kindnesses in the daily decision to show up for each other, even when showing up looks like nothing more than handling the dishes so the other person can have an hour of peace. This is the love that lasts, the love that weathers ordinary Tuesdays and extraordinary challenges alike, the love that doesn't need superpowers because it creates its own kind of magic in the quiet moments between the chaos. As Helen reaches for Bob's hand, their fingers intertwining automatically after years of practice, she thinks about how this is exactly where she wants to be. Not saving the world, though that has its place. Not proving anything to anyone, though she's certainly capable of that too. Just here, in her kitchen, with her family, watching the late afternoon light slant golden through the windows and feeling grateful for the beautiful, ordinary miracle of being completely, perfectly home. The evening settles around them like a familiar embrace as Bob rolls up his sleeves and surveys the kitchen with mock seriousness. "All right, Jack," he announces. "Time to show your mother how the professionals handle post-dinner operations." Jack babbles something that sounds suspiciously like agreement, though it might just be his ongoing commentary about elephants. Helen settles into the breakfast nook with her tea and chocolate croissant, watching her husband transform dishwashing into an elaborate performance for their youngest son's entertainment. First rule of kitchen cleanup, Bob explains solemnly to Jack, who's now perched safely in his high chair with a few measuring spoons to bang together, is proper technique. You can't just splash around and hope for the best. Helen hides her smile behind her teacup. She's watched Bob approach everything from fixing leaky faucets to assembling Christmas toys with this same methodical intensity. It's one of the things she adores about him, the way he brings genuine care and attention to even the most mundane tasks when they matter to his family. The kitchen fills with gentle sounds, the soft clink of dishes being washed and stacked, Jack's delighted giggles as Bob makes increasingly silly faces while scrubbing a particularly stubborn pot, the distant murmur of Dash's voice as he talks to himself while building whatever architectural marvel has captured his imagination upstairs. Even Violet's presence feels warm and settled, her study session creating a peaceful rhythm overhead. "You know what I was thinking about today?" Bob says, not looking up from the soapy water, but speaking just loud enough for Helen to hear. "What's that?" "Our third date. Do you remember it?" Helen nearly chokes on her tea, surprised by the sudden shift to memory lane. "Our third date? That's oddly specific. The one where we went to that little diner on Maple Street, and you ordered pancakes at 7 in the evening because you said breakfast food didn't follow conventional rules." The memory surfaces slowly, like a photograph developing. "Oh my goodness, I haven't thought about that place in years. What made you think of it?" Bob rinses a plate carefully, taking his time with his answer. "I was stuck in traffic today, right in front of where it used to be. It's a phone store now, but I could still picture us sitting in that corner booth. You had syrup on your chin, and you were telling me about your theory that pancakes were actually the perfect food because they could be sweet or savory, breakfast or dinner, fancy or simple. I can't believe you remember that conversation. I remember thinking that anyone who could make pancakes sound like philosophy was probably someone I wanted to keep around." Helen feels her cheeks warm, not from embarrassment, but from the sweetness of being known so thoroughly. "I was probably just nervous and talking too much. You were perfect," Bob says simply, and something in his voice makes her look up from her croissant. He's watching her now, hands still in the soapy water, and his expression is soft with affection. You're still perfect, you know. Different perfect than you were then, but perfect. Even when I'm stressed about homework that isn't even mine and worried about whether our son is going to grow up to be an architect or a professional troublemaker, especially then. Jack chooses this moment to drop all his measuring spoons at once, creating a metallic symphony that makes them both laugh. The baby looks enormously pleased with himself, as if he's just conducted a masterpiece. I think that was his review of our romantic moment, Helen says. Clearly a critic, Bob agrees, bending to collect the scattered spoons. Very high standards. From upstairs comes the sound of Dash's door opening and his feet thundering down the hallway toward the stairs. A moment later, he appears in the kitchen doorway, hair sticking up at odd angles and a satisfied grin on his face. Mom, Dad, you have to see what I built. It's a working model of the Golden Gate Bridge, except it's made entirely of Legos and it can actually hold weight. Watch this. He disappears again before either parent can respond, clearly expecting them to follow. Helen and Bob exchange a look that's part amusement, part resignation, and entirely love. Working model, huh? Bob says, drying his hands on the dish towel. This should be interesting, Helen replies, but she's already getting up from her seat. Because this is what love looks like on a Tuesday evening. It looks like abandoning your peaceful tea break to go admire your 10-year-old's engineering marvel, even though you're fairly certain it involves at least 3 violations of basic physics. They climb the stairs together, Jack riding contentedly on Bob's shoulders, chattering to himself in that stream of consciousness way that toddlers perfect. Helen's hand finds Bob's free one automatically, their fingers linking as they navigate around the toys scattered on the stairs like colorful landmines. Dash's room is a testament to creative chaos. Lego constructions cover every available surface, ranging from recognizable vehicles and buildings to abstract sculptures that exist purely because he could figure out how to make the pieces fit together. But dominating the center of the floor is his latest creation, a remarkably detailed suspension bridge that stretches from his desk to his bookshelf. See? Dash says proudly. I even figured out how to make the cables work properly. And look at this. He places a thick, hardcover book carefully on the bridge's center span. It holds. Bob whistles low, genuinely impressed. Dash, this is incredible. How did you figure out the weight distribution? I watched this documentary about engineering, and then I just kept trying different ways until it worked. The trick is making sure the tension is even on both sides. Helen watches her husband and son discuss load-bearing principles and structural integrity with the same seriousness they might bring to saving the world. There's something beautiful about the way Bob engages with Dash's interests, never talking down to him, but treating his questions and discoveries as genuinely important. Mom, come feel how strong it is, Dash calls, and Helen kneels beside the bridge, running her finger along the carefully constructed towers. This is really amazing, sweetheart. You put so much thought into this. I want to be an engineer when I grow up, or maybe an architect, or possibly someone who builds roller coasters. Did you know that designing a roller coaster uses basically the same physics as building a bridge? I did not know that, Helen says solemnly. But it makes perfect sense when you think about it. From down the hall comes the sound of Violet's door opening, followed by her voice calling out, "What's all the excitement about?" "Dash built a bridge," Bob calls back. A moment later, Violet appears in the doorway, textbook still in her hand, but curiosity clearly getting the better of her study session. At 14, she's reached that age where being impressed by her little brother's projects requires a delicate balance between genuine appreciation and maintaining her teenage dignity. Okay, that's actually pretty cool, she admits, examining the bridge with the kind of careful attention she usually reserves for her history notes. Want to test it with something heavier? Dash asks eagerly. How about we admire it exactly as it is? Helen suggests quickly, having learned through experience that Dash's experiments tend to escalate rapidly and don't always end with intact Lego structures. Your mom's probably right, Bob agrees, though Helen can see the part of him that's curious about the bridge's actual weight capacity. Maybe tomorrow we can do some controlled testing in the backyard. With safety protocols, Helen adds. Obviously with safety protocols, Bob says, grinning at her. What do you take me for? Some kind of amateur? Violet snorts with amusement. Dad, remember when you and Dash tried to see if you could launch paper airplanes from the roof? That was legitimate aerodynamics research, Bob protests. That ended with you stuck in the rain gutter, Helen reminds him. Worth it for the data we collected, Dash chimes in loyally. They're all laughing now, even Jack, though he probably doesn't understand what's funny. He just knows his family is happy, and that's enough to make him clap his chubby hands together with delight. This is the magic Helen never expected when she was young, and thought love would look like grand gestures and dramatic declarations. This moment, right here, crowded into Dash's bedroom, admiring a Lego bridge, while Jack babbles, and Violet pretends she's too mature to be charmed by her little brother's enthusiasm. Bob's arm around her shoulders, warm and solid and real, the love that builds slowly, day by day, choice by choice, until you look around one Tuesday evening and realize you've created something extraordinary without even trying. Not extraordinary because it's perfect, but extraordinary because it's yours, because it's built from patience and humor and the willingness to get excited about Lego bridges and paper airplane experiments and all the small wonders that fill a life when you're paying attention. Attention. The evening continues to unfold like pages in a well-loved book, each moment adding another layer to the story they're writing together. As the family gradually disperses back to their evening routines, Helen finds herself lingering in the hallway, watching Bob help Dash carefully dismantle just enough of the bridge to ensure it won't accidentally collapse during the night. There's something hypnotic about watching her husband's large hands work so delicately with the tiny plastic pieces, his patience infinite as Dash explains his construction methodology for the third time. Bob nods and asks follow-up questions as if he's never heard a more fascinating lecture on structural engineering. And Helen realizes this is what she fell in love with all those years ago. Not just his strength or his kindness, but his capacity to make everyone around him feel heard, valued, important. Mom, can you quiz me on my Civil War dates? Violet asks, appearing beside her with a stack of note cards and that slightly desperate look that means tomorrow's test is weighing on her mind. Of course, sweetheart. Your room or the living room? Living room? The lighting is better, and I can spread out my timeline on the coffee table. They settle onto the couch together, Violet's notes arranged in careful piles around them, like the battle plans of some academic general. Helen picks up the first stack of flashcards, marveling at her daughter's neat handwriting and the way she's organized everything by chronological periods and key themes. All right, Helen says, settling back into the cushions. When did the Battle of Gettysburg take place? July 1st through 3rd, 1863. Violet answers promptly. 3 days that basically changed the entire trajectory of the war. Good. And why was it considered such a turning point? As Violet launches into her explanation, Helen finds herself genuinely interested in the details, not because she has a particular passion for Civil War history, but because she has a tremendous passion for watching her daughter's mind work. The way Violet connects different events, sees patterns and consequences, approaches learning with a seriousness that's both admirable and slightly heartbreaking in its intensity. From upstairs comes the sound of Bob reading Jack his bedtime story, his voice carrying down through the floorboards in a gentle rumble that makes the whole house feel safe and settled. Helen can't make out the words, but she knows the rhythm. It's probably the book about the little bear who gets lost in the forest. Jack's current favorite that he demands every night despite having memorized every word. Mom, Violet's voice pulls her back to the flashcards. You're smiling. What are you thinking about? Just listening to your father put Jack to bed and thinking about how nice this is. All of us here, everyone doing their own thing, but together. Violet considers this, twirling a pen between her fingers. It is nice, even when Dash is being loud and Jack is being messy, and I'm stressed about school stuff. Especially then, Helen says softly. The mess is part of what makes it real. They continue with the quiz, moving through dates and battles and political decisions that shaped a nation. But Helen finds herself thinking about the smaller history they're creating, right here, right now. The way Violet bites her bottom lip when she's concentrating. The sound of Dash humming to himself as he organizes his Lego collection. The gradual quieting of Jack's giggles as sleep begins to claim him. Bob appears in the doorway eventually, moving quietly so as not to disturb their study session. He gives Helen a small wave and mouths, "He's out," while pointing toward the ceiling. Then he settles into the armchair across from them, picking up a book, but clearly content to simply be in the same room while they work. This is intimacy, Helen realizes. Not just the romantic kind, though that certainly has its place, but the deeper intimacy of choosing to share space and time without needing constant entertainment or conversation. The comfort of being together, even when you're doing different things. Bob reading his thriller novel while she quizzes their daughter on American history, all of them existing in the same peaceful bubble of evening quiet. Last few cards, Helen announces, and Violet straightens up, ready for the final push. What was Lincoln's primary goal at the beginning of the Civil War? Preserving the Union, Violet answers without hesitation. Initially, it wasn't specifically about ending slavery, though that became a central issue as the war progressed. And how did that goal evolve? Violet explains the shift in Lincoln's rhetoric and policy, from the early focus on preventing secession to the later moral imperative of ending slavery entirely. Helen listens, impressed by her daughter's nuanced understanding of how complex historical situations develop and change over time. "You're going to ace this test," she says when they finish the last card. "I hope so. Mrs. Patterson is tough, but fair. She always says she wants us to understand the why behind the what, not just memorize dates." "Smart teacher," Bob comments from his chair, not looking up from his book, but clearly having been listening. History without context is just trivia. Violet starts gathering her notes, organizing them back into neat stacks. "Thanks for helping, Mom. I know you probably had other things you wanted to do tonight." "Sweetheart," Helen says, reaching over to tuck a strand of hair behind Violet's ear. "There's nowhere else I'd rather be." Helping you study isn't something I have to do. It's something I get to do. Violet's smile is soft and genuine, the kind that reminds Helen that underneath the teenage complexity and growing independence, her daughter is still the little girl who used to crawl into her parents' bed during thunderstorms and ask for extra stories at bedtime. I'm going to review my timeline one more time and then get ready for bed, Violet says, gathering her materials. Good night, Dad. Good night, Mom. She kisses both parents on the cheek, a gesture that's become rare enough to feel precious, and heads upstairs with her arms full of note cards and textbooks. Helen and Bob are left alone in the living room, the house settling into that particular quiet that comes when children are finally, blissfully, asleep in their beds. Helen stretches her legs out on the couch, her feet finding Bob's lap automatically. His hands begin massaging her ankles without conscious thought, a habit developed over years of evening conversations and comfortable silences. Good day? He asks, and this time the question carries different weight. This time it's not about logistics or schedules or who needs to pick up what tomorrow. This time it's about everything else, about how she's feeling, what she's thinking, whether the person she was when she woke up this morning feels satisfied with who she became by the time the sun went down. Helen considers the question seriously, running through the hours in her mind, the small frustrations and tiny victories, the moments of worry and bursts of laughter, the ordinary magic of shepherding her family through another day of being human together. Really good, she says finally. Surprisingly good for a Tuesday. What made it good? She thinks about this too, because Bob's questions always deserve real answers. Jack finally ate something other than goldfish crackers. Violet actually seemed confident about her test instead of anxious. Dash built something amazing instead of something destructive. And you came home with chocolate croissants. So basically, low bar successfully cleared on all fronts. Hey, sometimes clearing the low bar is an achievement worth celebrating. Bob laughs, and his hands move from her ankles to her calves, working out the tension from a day spent mostly on her feet. I love your perspective on things. You find magic in the most ordinary moments. I learned that from you, actually. From me, the way you pay attention to everything. The way you remember details about conversations we had years ago. Or notice when someone needs something they haven't asked for. You taught me that ordinary moments are only ordinary if you're not really looking at them. They sit in comfortable silence for a while, the house breathing quietly around them. Outside, the streetlights cast gentle pools of yellow on the sidewalk, and occasionally a car passes by, headlights sweeping briefly across their front windows before disappearing into the night. This is the love that surprised Helen most when she discovered it. Not the passionate, consuming love of their early years, though that certainly laid the foundation. Not even the fierce, protective love that came with having children, though that transformed them both in ways they never expected. This is the love that grows in the spaces between drama, the love that finds nourishment in ordinary Tuesday evenings and chocolate croissants, in the way someone remembers exactly how you take your coffee after 15 years of marriage. It's the love that doesn't make good movies because it's too quiet, too steady, too real, but it's the love that makes good lives. The love that builds something solid enough to weather whatever storms might come, flexible enough to grow and change with the people who create it, strong enough to hold space for everyone to become exactly who they're meant to be. What are you thinking about? Bob asks softly, and Helen realizes she's been quiet for several minutes, lost in her own thoughts. Us, she says simply. How we got here. How lucky we are. Even on the days when Jack refuses to eat anything but goldfish crackers? Especially then. Bob shifts slightly in his chair, and Helen can see that familiar look crossing his face. The one that means he's remembering something, probably something she said or did, that struck him as particularly wonderful at the time. After all these years, she's learned to recognize the signs when her husband is about to share a moment from their shared history that she may or may not remember with the same clarity he does. Do you remember? He begins, and Helen settles deeper into the couch cushions, preparing for whatever memory is about to surface. When Violet was about 3, and she went through that phase where she insisted on wearing her winter coat everywhere, Helen's face brightens with recognition, even to bed, even in July. That ridiculous pink puffy coat that made her look like a tiny marshmallow. You were so worried she was going to overheat, but she absolutely refused to take it off. And I kept suggesting we just hide it, or tell her it was dirty, something to break the cycle. But I said we should let her figure it out on her own timeline. Helen finishes, smiling at the memory. You thought I was crazy. I thought you were the most patient person I'd ever met. Most parents would have staged some kind of coat intervention after day 3. You let it go for almost 2 months. Helen laughs, remembering how Violet would waddle around the house in that enormous coat, sweating but determined, her little face red but resolute. She was so serious about it, like that coat was some kind of armor against the world. And then one day, she just took it off and never wore it inside again, like she'd worked through whatever she needed to work through and was ready to move on. Kids are weird, Helen says fondly, but also kind of brilliant in ways we don't always understand. That's when I knew you were going to be an amazing mother, Bob says quietly. The way you trusted her process, instead of trying to fix what didn't actually need fixing. Helen feels that familiar flutter in her chest, the one that comes when Bob says something unexpectedly profound about their life together. I was probably just too tired to fight about a coat. No, it was more than that. You saw something in her that needed space to work itself out. You gave her room to be exactly who she was, even when who she was included some pretty eccentric fashion choices. They're quiet for a moment, both lost in the sweetness of that particular memory. Those early parenting days when everything felt so uncertain, when they were making up the rules as they went along and hoping they weren't permanently damaging their children with their inexperience. Sometimes I miss how simple their problems used to be, Helen admits. A coat phase, a fear of the vacuum cleaner, refusing to eat anything that wasn't shaped like a dinosaur. Now, Violet worries about fitting in, and Dash gets frustrated when things don't come easily, and Jack is developing opinions about everything. But look how amazing they're turning out, Bob says. Violet is thoughtful and kind, and so much braver than she gives herself credit for. Dash has this incredible curiosity about how everything works, and he never lets failure stop him from trying again. And Jack is just pure joy in tiny human form. Most of the time, Helen says with a grin, let's not forget the goldfish cracker standoff of this afternoon. Even then, especially then, that's just him figuring out that he has preferences and choices. It's actually pretty healthy development, even when it's annoying. Helen marvels at this about Bob. His ability to find the positive angle in even the most frustrating parenting moments, not in a way that dismisses the difficulty, but in a way that reminds her they're all just figuring things out together, that there's grace for the learning process, for both children and adults. "What do you think they'll remember about growing up here?" she asks. "About us, about this house, about all these ordinary Tuesday nights?" Bob considers this seriously, still massaging her feet with absent-minded tenderness. "I think they'll remember feeling safe, feeling heard. I think they'll remember that home was the place where they could be completely themselves, even when themselves included Lego bridges, in inappropriate places, in coat phases, in strong opinions about snack foods. I hope they remember the laughter," Helen adds. "How much we laughed together, even when things were hard. They will. Look at tonight. Look at how easily we all fell into being together, how natural it felt. That doesn't happen by accident. That's something we've built, day by day, choice by choice." From upstairs comes a small sound, possibly Jack stirring in his sleep, or maybe just the house settling around them. They both pause to listen, but the sound doesn't repeat. Just their baby boy dreaming, whatever dreams occupy the minds of toddlers who've spent their day discovering the world through measuring spoons and elephant stories. "Do you ever think about what we'd be doing right now if we were different people?" Helen asks. "If we'd made different choices, lived different lives?" "Sometimes," Bob admits. "But then I think about this, about sitting here with you after a day that was good, precisely because it was normal, and I can't imagine wanting anything else, not even a little bit. Well, maybe a bigger house, so Dash's engineering projects don't take over the entire living space," Bob says with mock seriousness. "And possibly a kitchen that cleans itself." "Now you're talking," Helen laughs. "What else would be in this fantasy house?" "A reading nook for Violet, where she can spread out all her school projects without taking over the dining room table. A proper workshop where I can fix things without having to clear toys off the workbench first. Maybe one of those big farmhouse kitchens where we could all cook together without constantly bumping into each other." Helen closes her eyes, picturing it. "A porch swing where we could sit in the evenings and watch the kids play in the yard. A fireplace for winter nights. Maybe a little garden where we could grow tomatoes and herbs." "Sounds perfect," Bob says. "But you know what? I'd want all the same people in it. All the same conversations and bedtime stories and Tuesday evening dishwashing concerts. All the same chaos and goldfish cracker negotiations. Especially those they're painting a picture with words, creating a shared dream that feels both possible and perfectly content with their current reality. It's not about dissatisfaction with what they have, but about the pleasure of imagining together, of building castles in the air that they may or may not ever inhabit, but enjoy designing nonetheless." "What would be in your ideal day in our fantasy house?" Helen asks, settling deeper into the game. "Coffee on the porch while the sun comes up, before anyone else is awake. Then breakfast together, everyone actually eating what's put in front of them without complaint. Maybe working in the garden, while Jack helps by collecting rocks and presenting them to me like precious gifts. Reading in the afternoon while he naps, actually finishing a chapter before someone needs something." Helen continues. "Cooking dinner together, all of us, with enough space that it feels creative instead of chaotic. Evening walks around the neighborhood, Jack riding on my shoulders, the older kids actually talking to us instead of asking if they can go back inside. Board games that don't end in arguments about rules. Movies that everyone agrees on. Bedtime stories that we all enjoy instead of just endure." They're both smiling now, caught up in this gentle fantasy of domestic perfection that they know is impossible, but delightful to imagine. The kind of dreams that make real life feel more precious, by contrast. Not because it's lacking, but because it's so beautifully, chaotically, perfectly imperfect. You know what the best part would be? Bob asks. What? At the end of the day, we'd still be right here, on some version of this couch, in some version of this conversation, grateful for some version of this life we've built together. Helen feels tears prick at her eyes, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming sweetness of being so completely understood, of sharing a life with someone who sees the magic in what they've created together, who appreciates the beauty of their ordinary moments, even while dreaming of slightly different ordinary moments. I love you, she says, and the words carry the weight of every Tuesday evening they've shared, every crisis they've weathered, every small joy they've celebrated together. I love you too, Bob replies, and his voice is soft with the same emotion. More than I did yesterday, which I didn't think was possible. The clock on the mantel chimes 10 o'clock, a gentle reminder that tomorrow will bring its own challenges and opportunities. Violet's test, Dash's boundless energy, Jack's continuing exploration of independence through snack food choices, Bob's meetings and Helen's deadlines, and all the small details that make up the infrastructure of their shared life. But tonight, right now, they have this moment of perfect contentment, this feeling of being exactly where they belong with exactly the right person. The house quiet around them, their children safe in their beds, the future stretching ahead, full of possibility and promise. Helen thinks about the young woman she used to be, the one who thought love would look different than this, more dramatic, more passionate, more like the movies. She had no idea then that the deepest love would feel like coming home every single day, like being known so completely that even your silences are understood. Ready for bed? Bob asks eventually, though neither of them moves to get up. In a few minutes, Helen says. I'm not quite ready for today to be over. Good day, Bob agrees. The kind worth savoring. And so they sit a little longer, holding on to the sweetness of this particular Tuesday evening, knowing that tomorrow will bring its own gifts and challenges, its own opportunities to choose love in the small moments that build a life together. For now, this is enough, more than enough. It's everything. Outside, the wind picks up slightly, rattling the windows just enough to remind them that autumn is settling deeper into the neighborhood. The sound is gentle, comforting, rather than threatening, like the house itself is sighing contentedly as it wraps around this family for another night. Helen pulls the throw blanket from the back of the couch over her legs, and Bob automatically adjusts his position so she can stretch out more comfortably. Do you remember when we first moved into this house? Helen asks, her voice soft with memory. How enormous it felt. Like we'd never be able to fill all these rooms with enough life to make it feel like home? Bob chuckles, his thumb tracing absent patterns on her ankle. I remember you standing in the empty living room with that overwhelmed expression, trying to figure out where anything should go. And Jack was barely walking then, just toddling from room to room like he was claiming territory. Now, I can barely remember what it felt like to have empty space, Helen says, glancing around the living room that's accumulated the comfortable clutter of active family life. Violet's textbook stacked on the side table, one of Dash's remote control cars tucked halfway under the armchair, Jack's stuffed elephant keeping watch from its perch on the bookshelf. Remember when we thought 3 bedrooms would be plenty? When we couldn't imagine how we'd use that extra storage closet upstairs? Now I'd kill for 3 more storage closets. Helen laughs. And maybe a soundproof room for when Dash decides to test the acoustic properties of his latest invention, or a secret passage to escape to when Jack Jack discovers he can reach the kitchen counters by climbing, Bob adds. Though, honestly, I'd miss the chaos if it suddenly disappeared. Helen knows he means it. For all their joking about the noise and mess and constant activity, there's something about the fullness of their life that feels exactly right. Like they've grown into this house, and it's grown around them. Each room shaped by the people who live and laugh and occasionally lose their minds within these walls. "What do you think the neighbors think of us?" she asks, a question that's occurred to her before, but never seemed worth pursuing until now, in this peaceful moment when curiosity feels safe. "Probably that we're the family that never has a quiet evening," Bob says. "Though I think Mrs. Patterson from next door actually enjoys listening to Dash's backyard experiments. She told me last week that his volcano eruption reminded her of her grandson. And Mr. Chen always waves when he sees Jack Jack in the garden. I think he's charmed by the way Jack Jack insists on saying hello to every flower, like they're personal friends. They've become part of the neighborhood's rhythm without really thinking about it. The family with the kids who build elaborate sidewalk chalk masterpieces, who occasionally have impromptu dance parties visible through the front windows, whose laughter spills out into summer evenings when they're all on the front porch together. I like being the house with the good energy," Helen says, "the one where other kids want to come play, where parents feel comfortable dropping by for coffee. We're creating something bigger than just our family unit. Community," Bob agrees. "The kind where people look out for each other without being intrusive, where kids can ride their bikes safely because everyone's paying attention. From somewhere in the walls comes the sound of the house settling, a gentle creaking that speaks of wood and foundation adjusting to the temperature change as night deepens. It's a sound Helen has learned to find comforting rather than concerning. The house's way of reminding them that it's solid, reliable, built to last. And so, our Tuesday evening story draws to its gentle close, just like the day itself settling into memory. Bob and Helen sit together in their living room, surrounded by the quiet evidence of a life well lived. The dishwasher humming its final cycle, the house breathing peacefully around sleeping children. Two hearts beating in comfortable rhythm after another ordinary day that somehow felt extraordinary, simply because they shared it. This is the love story that never makes headlines, but changes everything. The kind built from chocolate croissants and patient dishwashing, from Lego bridges and history flashcards, from 1,000 small choices to show up for each other when showing up looks like nothing more than listening, really listening to how someone's day unfolded. As you drift toward your own dreams tonight, remember that the greatest adventures often happen in the quietest moments. That love doesn't always need to save the world, to be super. Sometimes it just needs to save Tuesday evening, one gentle conversation at a time. Sweet dreams, wherever you are. May your own ordinary moments be filled with the same quiet magic that makes a house become a home. And may you wake tomorrow ready to choose love again in all its beautifully human forms.